just want to give a little bit of background on AB 1887, so we're all on the same page as we dive into the discussion. So California issued a travel ban for travel to 7 states, including Texas. And it's about refraining from using public funds to travel to those states. And that does include the UC, CSUs, and community colleges. The ban was actually issued as a response to a sincerely held religious beliefs law that was passed in Texas that could prevent LGBT parents from adopting or fostering children. And the travel ban may affect students, staff, and faculty from California state-funded colleges and universities who wish to attend 2018 SACNAS using school or California grant-based funding. There are several exceptions to this ban, primarily the clause that the law does not apply to travel that is required to participate in meetings or trainings required by a grant or required to maintain funding. And it does not apply to travel funded by federal grants or private money. And it does not impact private institutions or prohibit California students applying for SACNAS-sponsored travel scholarships. So those are all really important points. But I want to give a little bit of background about why SACNAS chose to stay in Texas. So in spite of this travel ban. And it was a challenging year for Texas with the passage of SB 4, which is the Anti-Sanctuary Cities Bill. And the board has decided to stand in solidarity with Texas and those who oppose the bill. Texas has the second largest Hispanic population and houses 10% of our 115 SACNAS chapters. So we felt like it was really important to stand with Texas as they're fighting this legislation and really make sure that we can provide the opportunities that the SACNAS conference affords to people in Texas and really show Texas what a powerful community SACNAS is. And lastly, the 2018 SACNAS contracts were signed over 5 years ago, and breaking the contracts was really cost prohibitive for us. So it's for all of those reasons that we decided to stay in Texas, and we'll work together to find strategies and ways for Californians to still attend 2018 SACNAS. So with that, I want to introduce our panel today. Nicole, can you introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name's Nicole Traeger. I am located in the East Bay at Los Medanos Community College. I run the Math, Engineering, Science Achievement Program. My professorship is actually located in the biology department, but I am full-time running the MESA program. And I really love SACNAS. It definitely is my home, and I am definitely devoted to the cause for sure.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nicole. Thanks for joining us. Our next panelist is Beto Vasquez. Beto, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, good morning. Let me see, there we go. Good morning, my name is Beto Vasquez. It's a pleasure to be with you all. I'm a staunch SACNAS supporter. SACNAS, you know, it's life-changing, and I like to make sure that that our community college students and that our undergraduate students continue to have these opportunities to participate and get involved and really reap the fruit of what SACNAS is. And so I previously worked with the community college district and with both credit and non-credit within community college. And now I'm currently working at UC San Diego for CREATE, which is a Center for Research on Educational Equity, Assessment, and Teaching Excellence. And I'm spearheading our efforts to increase diversity in the sciences and be more present in the community. And my background is in biology.
Thank you, Beto.
Yes.
And Mark.
So I'm a professor of obstetrics, gynecology, and reproductive sciences. I'm a basic scientist. I am a biologist too. I also direct the UC President's Postdoctoral Fellowship Program, which is why I'm hailing to you from up in UC Berkeley, because that's where my office is for that. And I also do postdoctoral training at UC San Diego. I'm a big SACNAS supporter. I've been helping coordinate the UC San Diego sponsorship of SACNAS over the last 4 years, and we'll be continuing that in the near future. And I've also got a lot of personal connection to it. I'm a life member. It's really been my home professional organization in many ways. And I've been doing this long enough where I have students that I've mentored since junior high school that have, through SACNAS and their organizations, are now postdoctoral fellows in science. And so I really see the value of establishing a community and maintaining that, which is partly why I want to help support and advise people that are trying to get to Texas, because I know it can be a transformative meeting for them, above and beyond the topics of the day that interfere with our ability to deliver, education and mentoring.
Thank you, Mark. And also we have Eric with us today.
Hello, I'm Eric Correa. I'm a program associate here at SACNAS, and I manage our travel scholarship program. So on this call, I just want to share a little bit of background about what our travel scholarship opportunities are. So this year we do have funding to support community college students with the travel scholarship, which covers round-trip airfare to San Antonio, and it also supports lodging for the duration of the conference. Our applications are currently open, and they are available until April 13th. I'm really excited to share that this year we actually do have funding for students in all STEM disciplines, so I'm really excited about that.
Wonderful, thank you. We also have with us Katerina. Katerina, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Katerina Porediuk. I'm also a program associate here at SACNAS, and I manage research presentation. And I would like to announce a very exciting event that we will have this year for the first time. It's a Community College Leadership Day in Santa Clara County. It will be taking place in San Jose City College. That will happen on June 1st.
Great. So, and Katerina will be available for the question and answer period in case anyone has specific questions about student research presentations. So with that, we're just going to start a conversation with our main panelists here, just giving some advice and strategies for students that you all have been working with and that might be applicable to our audience and at their community colleges. So Beto and Nicole, can you let us know what you all have been working with so far?
So I know that when we were talking about it, San Diego, their students had a great idea and had spearheaded a mass fundraising effort that went beyond taco sales and hot dog sales, and they went ahead and did some corporate fundraising, and they were able to get some Southwest flights donated, and went ahead and got some grant funds. So they're able to take their student population to Texas mostly on private funds alone. So I think having a really great student group that's willing to do and leading your students through fundraising efforts early on right now, you may not be able to take a huge student group, but having a small amount of students to go and represent your college is something that is really great effort.
Nicole, thank you. How's it been going at Los Medanos, and what are the strategies that you all are thinking about?
My students, they have been thinking about our college foundation. So our college foundation is a 501c3, which is all private funding. So they're putting together a package to go at the board meeting, the foundation board, and try and present a case for them to have them pitch in for their travel funding. So nothing, right? They haven't received any money yet. So there is a formal process for our foundation, because our foundation mostly funds scholarships and other types of emergency funds, but there is another avenue for our foundation as far as grant-wise. So they're putting together a full package to go and appeal to our foundation. So that's their strategy to try first.
That's a great strategy. Do most community colleges have those types of foundations?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a great idea. And for students in schools that may not have the connections in terms of mass fundraising, or the area that the school is in, without a lot of capital, so to speak, to donate, I think that's a really great alternative. Beto, do you have any suggestions or insights about how the students, I mean, approaching Southwest Airlines, that's pretty huge. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so luckily, actually, you'll be surprised, but for a lot of industry folks, they actually have an outreach or community arm that's connected to them. And so thankfully, as co-advisor for the San Diego City College chapter, I was able to leverage the relationship that I already had with a few folks to be able to have that conversation and really help them be able to do something that they're committed to in their engagement with the community, and likewise, approach other organizations, some private funders, and some industry partners to be able to meet, what their goals would be for community outreach and STEM advocacy and support. And so you'd be surprised, even if it's an aggregates company that might be locally, or an agricultural company, nearby, near one of these campuses, that they may be able to offer some kind of support. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is it's, I really see it as a great opportunity, right? Because when we talk about development specifically for our community college students, because that's who I work with SACNAS more directly, is the opportunity for them to learn the skill set of writing grants, of soliciting funders, of developing budgets, all these different skill sets that we don't necessarily offer in a classroom, but it's a great opportunity for them to start learning and cultivating, right? And then to another point, we also are considering alternatives to, how do we reduce costs, right? So we know that when we go to hotels, if you want to take 10 students, that's roughly going to be, 5 rooms plus the advisors, and you're talking about $200-300 a room. Well, a good alternative to that would be, possibly renting a house via Airbnb or HomeAway.com, one of those two that's nearby, but drastically can reduce the cost that you're going to be incurring. And so we're definitely entertaining all these different thoughts. We're engaging in all these different approaches, and luckily, I mean, we've had some good response, and we're still continuing to seeing which ways we can minimize costs and also optimize the engagement that we have with both private foundations that are willing to donate some money, and industry partners that want to continue to invest in future employees that they can possibly make.
Thank you, Beto. Those are great ideas, and it's so helpful to have an advisor with those connections, right? So Nicole has talked about presenting the idea to her students around approaching the foundation, and a lot of the students may not have even known that there was a foundation. And then Beto, you're guiding and mentoring your students in development based on some of the contacts that you've had. So how would you so hopefully a lot of people will listen to this webinar and get some ideas about it. But for students that may not have as any connections to local industry or airlines or something like that, how do you think they should get started? Would it be even going to the development office of the community college and talking to them and seeing if they might be able to give them ideas? Or, I mean, how would a student or an advisor without any connections to local development opportunities get started?
Well, one recommendation that I would make is you know, you gotta plead the case on the need for support, right? And so, you know, one good way to start would be to look at the institution's individual scorecard and look at their demographics and see where some of those deficiencies might be, or see how supportive we are in bolstering, you know, those folks that are underrepresented in the sciences. You know, that lines up with what the mission of SACNAS is, and really talk to the effect of the disservice that we might be doing students by not supporting events like this. And so again, it might not necessarily be a question of, you know, are they willing to support or can they support, but how much are they willing to support, right? And so, you know, we might not be able to take, you know, like Nicole just mentioned right now, might not be able to take a whole cadre of students, but at the very least, you know, we can take a handful that could potentially go. And so, and it's also important to kind of take into mind that you might have to pull money from a few different pots, right? It might not all come from the president's office. It might not all be from a private funder. It could be a combination of all those different things. And so, you know, that's definitely, it's you know, I would say it's like trying to plan a party on a budget, right? You know, you really need to see where you can save some money and where, you know, what kind of different padrinos, if you will, you can acquire to be able to absorb some of those costs that the students are going to incur. But again, just really you know, finding that interface, I think is crucial, where you find the point that whoever you're approaching really cares about, and then you just maximize that opportunity, right? And so if it's industry, you talk about, you know, investing in future engineers or scientists or whoever it is that you're approaching. If it's the institution, you talk about bolstering numbers in STEM degrees for underrepresented folks. You know, if it's in the community, private, you know, foundations, it could be, you know, whatever it is that they've outlined for their goals. You line yourself up with one of the goals and you just kind of run with that. And it's like applying for scholarships. I tell students all the time, you know, you might apply for 10 and you might only get 1 or 2, and that's okay, right? That's 1 or 2 more than you already had. So again, for me, the interest is the multiple opportunities for students to learn about all these different things, you know, to gain that thicker skin, if you will, and being able to go out there and have the, you know, that skill set to have those conversations that could be somewhat uncomfortable and intimidating, but also, you know, being able to leverage those new relationships and your networking skills, right? Which, you know, moving forward can definitely be beneficial. So a lot of different ways. And again, it's depending on your region. There's, you know, you might have some resources in some and not in others. But there's always something around that you might not necessarily see right away, but you can approach and maybe even outside, a little bit outside of your region. You'd be surprised at what kind of folks you might get on board that might be willing to help out.
Thank you, Beto. Mark, do you have any ideas to add to what Nicole and Beto have shared?
Yeah, there's just a couple of things I want to point out that haven't come up yet, and that is, you know, at least in our region, and I know in others, there are community colleges with bridge program partnerships with four-year institutions. So, you know, for instance, I think it's Mesa College in San Diego County. There's a few up and down the state that have NIH-funded bridge programs. And just to make sure that people understand that, those funds are federal funds, and so they're not subject to the rules under AB 1887. And so they'll be able to use those to try to support travel with that, because most of those programs have attendance at SACNAS or some other STEM conference written into the grant itself. So be clear that if you do have federal funding in a bridge partnership program or something similar with NIH or NSF, that you are able to access those funds. And then a little bit on the topic that Beto was going on with finding private partnerships and looking to the community college administration. There's not only in the local colleges but also in the district offices. There are people that can help you or help identify funds there. So in the community college district in San Diego, in their central office, there are people that can provide information like that, and that structure is replicated up and down the state. So that's another place. Not everybody's fortunate to have someone like Nicole and Beto really driving the MESA programs or the partnerships with other institutions, but those district offices generally have some structure involved that can be tapped in. And then the other thing is to consider making a partnership with an institution like a UC or a Cal State. And a UC, is likely to have more federal funding available, and a lot of them are looking for reasons to build partnerships with community colleges. I think Beto can, just think about his position. He's in the UC trying to make strong partnerships with community colleges. That's a need up and down the state, and that's a strategic desire of most of the UC campuses. And so equivalent offices, equity and diversity offices up and down can be at least looked to for information and strategies of identifying funds that lie outside that. This really is affecting only one funding stream, and that is the state general fund money. It's money that comes from other sources is not subject to these rules. And so as long as you know where that money is coming from, and you should learn that, you should be able to figure out some way of at least moderating the impact of this rule.
Thank you, Mark.
Jenny?
Yes.
I'm sorry, can I just add one more thing that I forgot to mention earlier? One of the tools that we have also that I would definitely, have students optimize, and being a student here and now, I think this would be fairly easy, is, look into social media, right? So doing some kind of a crowdsourcing type of fundraiser, a GoFundMe page or something along those lines, because then we're able to leverage our individual networks and resources, even with SACNAS, right, where we can share certain things, not to inundate you with all these different requests, but we can definitely take advantage of our networks and be able to share those for folks that might have a lot less resources to be able to work with. So that's definitely another option that I would highly recommend be employed.
Those are great points. Thank you. So before we go into the question and answer, Mark, you had something else you wanted to add as well?
Just real quickly, I just had a quick, actually this is a segue into questions and answers, is, it's likely that there may be more of these types of partnerships being developed in response to this and in trying to get students there. But SACNAS might think of ways that that this can be recognized. For instance, I found out about the Southwest engagement as well just recently since our last call, and we should be able to recognize those that are contributing to this and helping the students, because in the long run, this stress that's applied to the system is a way to initiate possibly long-term relationships with the community that will only serve to strengthen, the engagement with SACNAS and the impact on the students. And so we should really think about it not only as dealing with this local or temporal issue, but as a way of looking outside and building some stronger partnerships with these people that are willing to help and probably would appreciate, more longer-term engagement.
Absolutely, and that's a great idea. So I do invite the program directors that are listening in to send me information about who you've been working with and how you've been partnering with them. My email is just Jenny, Jenny, at SACNAS.org. And then we can start having a conversation about appropriately recognizing the contributions of these groups and helping our California students come to the 2018 SACNAS. I think that's a great point. And it can't hurt, right, in our overall movement in terms of travel scholarships and supporting students. So thank you for that, Mark. And for all those listening, please do email me and let me know what it is that you're doing and who those people who are, people and institutions are that have been coming through for you. So I did, Nicole, just wanted to have you chime in on this point in terms of faculty and program directors, and then we can move into our Q&A session.
The community colleges are an interesting bunch as maybe opposed to the four-year universities, because at least with our district, and I know a lot of my other MESA directors, our students are not allowed to travel without us. Without a chaperone, especially if they're in a program or if they're a chartered club. If they travel as some sort of program or club without a chaperone, it's really bad. We'll say that. So it poses, like, so for instance, the travel scholarships, well, we can encourage our students to get the SACNAS travel scholarships. That still poses a hardship, because if we have like a chartered club, and they're all going as a collective, they still don't have a chaperone or an advisor going with them. So you still have to drum up the money for your chaperone to go as a community college. So that still poses a problem. So that's why we've been going from our angle with the College Foundation to appeal as a whole travel group. As opposed to as a student group. I know that's what San Diego, because a lot of times you can pull on the heartstrings to say with a lot of these industry members and things like that, to pose as as the students need the funding, but with our College Foundation, because they know our rules and they know the need, we can say, you know, the advisor needs to go as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great point, Nicole. And also, I mean, I understand it's the rules for community colleges, but it's also incredible to have these committed advisors coming to SACNAS. Number one, for your own gratification in terms of joining your own community of professionals, right? And getting that inspiration and support that you need once a year from your SACNAS community. But also that you all as a group, in terms of advisors, are a really powerful group of mentors that can come and spread the mentorship to other SACNAS students, not just your own, by participating as mentor judges for student presentations, participating in conversations with scientists, and all of those other mentoring-focused activities. So, you know, the other thing I would maybe throw out there is also, not that you still would be able to use state funds, obviously, but considering session proposals, especially as faculty members, if there are professional development workshops or scientific symposia that you want to propose, because the foundation may also be more inclined to fund you if you're actually speaking at the conference as well. So definitely don't forget to consider that as an option. And then also when you are making your case as advisors, say that this is, I mean, there's a lot that you offer the community at large by your attendance there as mentors and professors to the other students, the other, 2,000 to 3,000 students that are attending. So it's a much broader impact as well.
Jenny, and also, if
Yeah.
if I may add to Nicole's point, when you're talking about funding that's available at a community college, there's also the associated student government oftentimes have funds, and I don't know where they originate from or if those would fall under, yeah, if those would be prohibited, also prohibited to be used in Texas, but it's worth a shot to investigate. How do you tap into that funding that's available through the student government? Because I know for at City College, what's required is the chapter needs to be chartered. I think they require for you to have at least be able to match what it is that you're requesting from them, and you just go in before the student government and you state your case in a similar fashion, like Nicole mentioned. And so it's again another one of those pots of money that you can definitely tap into and utilize. And then the other thing is, if some of the students or faculty members that are working with those students can do any kind of guest speaking presentations and stuff like that, where they can get paid to do a lecture or something, and then donate that towards the cause. I know that's been part of the case that we're doing down here is, some speaking engagement fees that come up for either the other advisor or myself. We're donating it, towards the trip that we want the students to be able to have. So just some extra ideas of how you can do that, because you can get paid for the speaking engagement and then, dish it out on your end however you'd like, right? So just something to consider.
That's fantastic. Mark, any other ideas before we go into the Q&A portion?
No, I'm good right now.
Okay, great. So for the question and answer portion, we would love for you to use the chat function. And if you move your mouse over the options at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the chat icon and you can type in your question. You can direct your question to a specific panelist if applicable, or just to anybody. You can also just unmute yourself and chime in, and we're really happy to entertain questions. So we have one question: if we fundraise for our advisors to go, could we go? Is that from a student? From a student perspective or an advisor perspective? Oh, yes, it's from a student perspective. So I think I need a little bit more information about that question.
That's one of my students. The answer is yes. The answer is yes, Mary. So I can probably give you some background on probably what she's thinking. The answer is yes. But so she's one of my students, and one of the challenges at our college is we really can't go. One of the things we were discussing is them applying to the travel scholarships, and it's so early. The travel scholarships is getting funding for myself to go without knowing with its travel scholarships versus having a chaperone. It actually puts my job in jeopardy. So I hesitate to have them apply to and take scholarships away from other students without knowing that I can actually travel with them. So it's one of those, I do need to look for other funding to have them be able to attend, because I know it is valuable. And so that's why I've been looking for funding to have us go as a full group necessarily, because we don't, I have lots of connections on the campus, and there are not any federal funding or any other funding on campus. So it's hard to appeal to that.
Understood. Thank you for clarifying that, because that, even though that's specific to your student and your institution, what you just described, I think, will be applicable to everybody. It's that chicken and egg kind of situation. And I do appreciate you being aware, I mean, based on our own funding streams, we have a set amount of travel scholarships that we can offer, right? So that we really do encourage that if there is a way to fundraise your way to the conference, then have that those scholarships available to other students.
Yeah, and I would just, I would want to echo what Nicole mentioned, because we see something similar over here in San Diego, where the primary advisor, she's actually rather new to SACNAS, and she's an astrophysicist, Latina, and so we want, we're equally excited to get her to the conference, and she's been really great at sacrificing her time to be the lead of the chapter, to get the chapter engaged. And so absolutely, I mean, we're going at it like a team effort, right? And so if we're looking to fundraise for students, we're also looking to be able to include and waive those expenses for the instructor, so that she can also be present with us at the conference. And so luckily, through my work, I get to use that as my professional development one. And I do happen to apply to see if we can do workshops. So then my institution is happy, because, we're basically, putting in work for them, for lack of another term, and they're excited about that. And then, they get to cover those costs through that. But, my situation is pretty unique, and I realize that. But again, for my counterpart, for the other advisor with the chapter, we do try to be sensitive to the fact that it gets pretty pricey, right? And so we want to be able to leverage that as best as we can.
Thank you, Beto. We have another question that says, would any SACNAS sponsors be willing to help fund California students that want to go? Would the National SACNAS organization help California students find sponsors? We are working on it, absolutely. So thank you for that question, and I can assure you that all hands are on deck in terms of finding more travel scholarship money. So thank you for that.
Jenny, so this is Mark. So then it occurs to me that maybe what in coordination with your office, or with other campuses that maybe have partnerships with community colleges, one of the things we could do is figure out a way to encourage, people like Nicole's students to apply, to make sure they get their applications in for the travel scholarships. But then the organization and the other partners think about ways of being able to support the MESA directors, right? Because they're the ones that are going to end up, in that bind. And so, I wouldn't want, students to not apply to the travel award because they're not sure about their sponsor being able to attend. And then so thinking of other ways of looking to defray costs and to support sponsors to go either through their own fundraising or through, working with a different partner, through whatever channels we can, in order to facilitate them, so that that's not a burden they have to worry about. I feel bad that they have this, they're getting the double jeopardy on this, and it could hurt the students ultimately.
And that's an excellent point. And I would also reiterate, there's no harm in applying. I mean, you put together a great application, and it's good experience to put an application together, and you can use pieces of it later in other applications. And then you get to decide whether you're going to accept it or not based on whether you fundraised or the sponsor, and all of that. So definitely don't shoot yourself in the foot by not applying because you're worried that your advisor may not be able to go. And we've definitely taken note of that good suggestion. That's exactly why we're having these webinars, is to give information to you all and gain information on our end about different avenues and ways we can approach this with creative thinking.
And so
Yeah,
I wanted, if I may, I'm sorry to interrupt. I wanted, I don't know if it would be the appropriate forum to bring this up on, but another thing we might want to consider, or SACNAS might want to consider, is how we're helping folks that are serving as advisors. Being that most of the time it's kind of something that they're doing on their own time. If there's any way that we can help them offset the membership expense. Because as I'm pretty sure you're familiar with, the chapters specifically at the community colleges tend to kind of ebb and flow, right? And so it's usually because there's a lack of a faculty member or somebody that's going to take that role. So I think it would be great, for us to be able to support those individuals that have continued to demonstrate that leadership. To have some kind of opportunity to have the lifetime membership or some kind of a special rate for a faculty advisor membership, so that we can offset that cost as well.
So this is Eric. I also wanted to kind of highlight what Jenny was mentioning about having the students still apply for travel scholarship. So I do highly encourage that students still apply because if they do get awarded, students will have up until August to basically decide whether or not they would still want to accept the travel scholarship. And at that point, we would still be able to, for example, if a student finds alternative funding and needs to decline their award, we'll still have time to be able to then look for other students who applied that are eligible and then basically offer them the travel scholarship.
We also got a question directed to Eric, which says the travel scholarship will only cover airfare and lodging. And that means that the registration costs would not be covered by the travel scholarship. For community colleges, this not only places the burden of coming up with the chaperone's full cost, but also the cost of helping students pay the registration fee.
Yeah, so that is correct that the travel scholarship only covers the travel part and the lodging. So students would be responsible for the registration. The reason that decision was made was really to try to maximize our funding and really expand the number of students that we could support. And I do know that that does put this hardship on some of the students who now have to come up with those funds. But I definitely highly encourage students to take advantage of all of the tips and advice that were provided by the other panelists earlier in this call to really try to help cover those costs for registration.
You can certainly contact us after this call at any point. I want to thank you very much for all of the panelists that came and gave their great ideas and insights, and also to all of you that attended the call. And like I said, you can contact us at any point. You can email info@sacnas.org, go to the 2018 sacnas.org website. There's a contact page with all of the pertinent emails and phone numbers. And reach out, share your ideas, let us know who's supporting you, let us know where your challenges are coming in, and how we can continue to creatively think about making sure that you can get to the 2018 SACNAS conference. Thank you so much for your time today, and we'll talk to you later.